Going on YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Ralphdatrader here, back again with another video. In today's video, you guys, I want to review some of the trades that happened on the Nasdaq this past week. The Nasdaq gave out some great opportunities this past week, so I just want to review those trades with you guys. But before we get on the charts, let's review the only three things that a market will do. Okay, because this is our core fundamental right here. Markets are only going to do three things, guys. They're either going to break out, pull back, and continue to trend, whether they're in a uptrend or a downtrend. They're either going to break out, fail, and reverse, or they're either going to stay in a trading range. Okay, these are the only three things that any market will do. All right, no matter the instrument that you're trading, they're either going to break out, pull back, trend, break out, fail, reverse, or stay in a trading range. Now, when it comes to the setups, we know that there's only two setups, okay? There's only two setups. It's either going to be a buy setup or a sell setup. Those are the only two setups. Now, when it comes to the pattern of that setup there we're hunting, it's either going to be a dump oil pump pattern, or we're either going to have the trap and shift pattern, which is the V bottom, or we're either going to have the pump oil dump pattern, or we're either going to have the A top trap and shift sell high pattern. Now it is up to the trader to decide whether they want to look for the pump oil dump pattern or the A top trap and shift pattern, or they either want to look for the dump coil pump pattern or the V bottom trap and shift pattern. Okay, that is entirely up to the trader themselves. You choose which direction that you want to trade in. You either want to be a buyer or a seller. If you're someone that's struggling, just pick one side to master until you're able to master that one side. Then you can um you can look for the other pattern. Okay, so master whether you want to booty dump coil pump until you master that pattern. Then you can master the pump coil dump. Now let's take a look at the charts. All right, you guys. So here is the Nasdaq. So right now I'm looking at the futures chart. So this is MNQ, but it's the same thing as the CFD Nas 100. Okay, but I trade futures, so I'm looking at the MNQ chart here, and this is the 5 minute time frame. All right, now when it comes to the levels, guys, you know the levels are always the same. Nothing never changes. All right, we're looking at the previous day's high level, previous day's low level, previous week's high level and previous week's low levels, and we're also using the closing price levels. All right. Now, when it comes to the 100 pip box levels, I'm looking at the double zeros in the 50. That will give us our 100 pip box from 0 to 0. That is the 100 pip box. Okay. And I'm primarily focused on double zeros and 50. Now, when it comes to the daily signals, all right, you guys know I like to look for closing, breakout, or inside day. But like always, you guys can look for any daily signal that you prefer to use. All right. Now this is MNQ NASDAQ. All right, on the 5 minute time frame. So at the close of Friday, all right, at the close of Friday at 4:55 Eastern Standard Time, there was no daily signal. Okay, so there was no daily signal. So you can set alert at the previous day's high or previous day's low and see if we get a signal on the day. So as the Asian session opens up, we can see this market open up on a gap. It triggered breakout traders. Okay, it triggered breakout traders. So they triggered shorts into the market. So that gave us our signal on the day. Okay, so we got our daily signal. Now we can see that when this market triggered breakout traders, they immediately reverse. Okay. They immediately reverse. So markets only do three things, correct? They only do three things. All right. What are those three things that a market do? Okay. They're either going to breakout, pullback trend, breakout, fail and reverse, or stay in a trading range. So we have a market that gave us our daily signal. All right. They broke out of a previous day's low level and then they reversed immediately. Okay. So now, as we go into our New York session, all right, we're waiting until after 9:30 to see what setup are we going to get. Okay. What setup are we going to get? So as you guys can see that the London session gave us a nice dump. This market began to accumulate sideways heading into pre-market and the New York Open. 9:30 opens up, giving us a strong pin hammer off of a major round number. Also, candles are closed inside of our 20 EMA, inside of that money line. And at 9:35, you could have taken an entry for a 100-point move. All right, so Three things that markets do: breakout, pullback trend, breakout, fail, and reverse. So what do we get here? We got a market that broke out, failed, and reversed. It broke out of a previous day's low level, and then it reversed back to the upside. And the pattern that it gave us was a dump oil pump pattern. All right. That was it. Keep it simple, right? Now, as we head into day two, we know that day two typically expands the range, correct? So, what is the daily signal? The daily signal, we had a market that did close and breakout once again. All right, market closes above a previous day's high level. So, we have our daily signal. Now, as you guys can see, that when the Asian session opened up, it also triggered breakout traders, all right? Triggering the previous day's high. So it gave us a signal on the day. Markets only do three things: breakout, pullback trend, breakout, fair reverse, or stay in a trading range. So we had a market that has broken out. All right, broken out. Now, as we get into our New York session, what did the market do? How is price behaving in this session that you're trading? We can see that this market broke out during the Asian session, continued to go higher. All right, in the gap time coming into our London timing window, they began to coil sideways. Now, as it approached the pre-market time before the NY open, all right, they proceed to go higher once again, but still pretty much staying inside of that coil. All right, they coiling sideways. Then right at the open at 9:30, all right, this market proceeds to pull back into our previous day's high level, triggering breakout traders once again, and immediately they reverse. Okay, trapping shorts immediately reverse, giving us a market that has broken out, okay, pulled back, and continued to trend, okay, for a 100-point move once again on a Tuesday. So, what are the three things that a market does, okay? What are the three things that a market does? This market broke out, pulled back, and continued to trend on day two. Day two typically expands the range. All right. So we had a market that broke out, pulled back, and continued to trend. And what was the setup? Okay. It gave us a trap and shift, V bottom, trap and shift. All right. Trap and shift. Or you can either say it dumped and it pumped. Okay. It's a dump and pump, or it's a trap and shift. All right. Now, as we head into Wednesday, we just repeat that same process. What's our daily signal? Once again, we got a market that closed in breakout. All right, at the end of the day, market closes above a previous day's high level. Now, as we head into our Wednesday, what do we get? Once again, this market triggers breakout traders right in during the Asian session. Okay, they trigger the previous day's high, giving us a signal on the day. And now, as we head into our New York session, how is price behaving? Okay, how is price behaving when it gets into our New York session? We can see that this market broke the previous day's high level once again. Now, as we head into our New York session, we can see that this market was just went into a range. They created this little M formation at the top, ranging, but they still did not confirm a setup yet. Okay. And what's the setup that we're looking for? We're up high. What did this market do? Okay, heading into the New York session, they pumped up, right? They pumped, they called right at a major round number at that double zero level. Now, as price get into our timing window, into that timing window, we need to just see how price is going to behave and just see if price is going to offer us a setup. As you guys can see, this market put in a M pattern. All right. Still nothing confirmed. Now you're just waiting until that third hour. Now, because that's when the setup begins to start happening. As you guys can see, they break lower, they pull back and retest the 50 level, and they give us a trade. Now, it wasn't the prettiest trade of all, but the setup was still there. What are the three things that a market do? Okay. What are the three things that a market do? This market broke out, pulled back. Okay. It broke out, pulled back. All right. Market that has broken out and pulled back to our previous day's high level. All right. So this market broke out, pulled back to that level. And I think we had some major red news. So they broke out, pulled back, and they just continued to trend. So we had a market that breaks out once again, pull back, and it continued to trend. All right, it continued to trend at the end of the day because we did not reach a previous day's low level. Now, as we head into our Thursday is the range reversal day. What was our daily signal? Once again, we had a market that has closed in breakout. Okay, a market that has closed in breakout. Markets only do three things. All right. So as we head into our New York session, what do we get? We have a market that has broken out. Okay. On Wednesday, this market was in breakout. They coiled all the way in from three sessions. They began to coil heading into our New York session. So we had a market that pumped up, coiled sideways. Okay. And as we approach our New York session, this market begins to just dump. Now you could have gotten in at 9:35. You could have gotten in here. You could have waited until they broke the previous day's low level. So now we had a market that closed in breakout. They broke out and then they reversed. This market reversed. Now, as this market triggered the previous day's low level, they triggered breakout traders. Okay. They triggered breakout traders, triggering shorts into the market. Then they pulled back. So we had a market that has broken out, pulled back, and it continued to trend on Thursday. Okay. On Thursday. Once it broke the previous day's low level, it continued to trend. But what was the setup? All right. What was the setup? It was a market that pumped up, pulled sideways, and gave us a dump. All right. So the market broke out on it stayed in breakout on Wednesday, pulled sideways, and gave us a dump. Markets only do three things: breakout, pullback trend, breakout, fell, and reverse. So what did this market do? This market broke out, failed, and it reversed. Then it broke out once again during the New York session and trend. Okay. So this market broke out, pulled back and reversed. And also during that same day, it broke out of the previous day's low level and it continued to trend. Now, as you head into Free Cash Friday, we had a market that closed in breakout. That was our daily signal market that closed below a previous day's low level. Okay. We had a market that closed in breakout. And now, what is the setup? What is the setup as it approaches the New York session? So as we get into our New York session, what is price doing? Okay, this price just started ranging. Look at how the EMA is in the middle of all of this price action. So we had a market that breaks out and goes into a trading range. And later on in the day, you can see they did continue with this trend, but you're trading inside of this timing window. This market just went into a range. All right. During the New York session, this market just went range bound. So we had a market that went into a range. So every day this week, if you remember this first slide, all right, if you remember this first slide, markets only do three things: breakout, pullback, trend, breakout, fair reverse, or stay in a trading range. And as you guys can see from the example that I showed you, this is exactly what the markets did on the NASDAQ. Okay. Every day this week, you either had a market that broke out, pullback and trend. We had a day where a market broke out, fell in reverse, and we had a market that stayed in a trading range. All right. So that's all I got for you guys, man. Like always, work hard, stay disciplined, and be patient, and know that your time will come. And be the reason someone smiles today. Okay. Be the reason someone smiles today. Peace and love. Have a good one.